All right, welcome. In this video, we're just going to do a little vlog. Well, you're going to watch it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to be posting a few more of these, maybe once a month if I can. Of just some vlogs from the drum studio, some of the sort of daily runnings from down here, what my days consist of, some of the stuff that's required of me, how I set things up, etc, etc, and hopefully that will be interesting for you guys. Maybe some of you out there are wondering how to make your drum room and what to do and what that involves and the equipment you might need, and hopefully these little vlogs will give you some insight into that. First of all, let's have a little check-in of what's been going on down here. Obviously we're in the new year now, so happy new year to everybody. 2021, we're back into another full power lockdown here in the UK, so we're almost, well, I certainly feel like we've kind of gone backwards a little bit, but you know, there's positives and negatives to what's going on at the moment. It's mostly negative if I'm honest, but we're just getting on with it. We're not going to dwell on that too much. This week down here I have all my lessons are back online, so that's happening down here. I actually got contacted by an artist I used to work for, Mr. Lloyd Yates. So I'm going to be tracking a song. I'm going to be recording a song for him down here this week, and I'm going to go through that setup a little bit. I've had to replace all the microphones this week, and I'm going to try some new things. I'm going to experiment with some different mic placements, and hopefully that will have some interesting results. I need to put some new heads on. I actually need to reskin the other kit, not this one I've got here, but I do need to do the snare drum. I need to do the Ludwig Acrolite, so we can talk through that a little bit as well, and that's about it really. Oh, I put a new floor down in here. I didn't film that because it was really dark and horrible and wet, and I just got it done, but maybe I'll take some stills and I'll put them in this video, and you can see the little update on the studio. And that's what we're going to get into this week, so let's do it. Mics are up, mics are done. It didn't actually take that long because I don't have a huge setup. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I use 4 microphones in here at the moment. I do have some more, but that's kind of what I've landed on at the moment. So I'm going to quickly show you those. They're nothing fancy. Don't get too excited. Here we go. So I use, as my sort of condenser mics, my room condenser mics, these SE2200s. 2 of those, one above, one set up sort of permanently up here, one down here. For my bass drum, I use a D12, the old D12, the original, the Lafayette D12. And then for my snare drum, I use a 57M, I think that is. I have to double check that. Forgive me if I'm wrong. It's an old 57, 70 to 57. And that's it. That's all I use in here. I don't go overboard. Nothing too fancy. The way I have it all running is I have myself a little snake box over here that runs down the wall there, the cable's behind there, and then I run into an Octopre, Focusrite Octopre, which is my expander, and an Audient interface. Now, as I mentioned, my setup is pretty humble, and I don't say that in a negative way. I think that's for me it works, and ultimately that's what it comes down to. It's whatever works, and really draining those creative juices out of what you've got. This was what I could afford at the time for my setup. At the moment, I'm looking at upgrading, but right now that probably will have to wait. But this is working for me, so if it ain't broke, I'm not going to try and fix it. So yeah, that's for the mic setup. That's a quick run through of my setup. Oh, and Pro Tools. Forgot to mention that. Sorry, the DAW I'm using is Pro Tools, the DAW I use. I've never used anything else. I went from, well, other than GarageBand, but I guess we all kind of start on the free software on the computer. And I went straight to Pro Tools, and again, I'm sure all other ones are great as well. That's just the one that works for me, and that's the one I know and understand now, so that's the one I'm going to stick to. And that's enough of me yabbering on about geeky music equipment stuff. Although, if you're here at this channel, you're into drum stuff, so anyway, let's get this snare head changed. Let's get a fresh head on this snare drum. A little bit on this snare drum. This snare drum, I actually treated myself to, I guess kind of for my 30th birthday, or my 31st birthday. It is a 1971, I believe. Early 70s, forgive me if I got that wrong. Early 70s Ludwig Acrolite. And I got this because for the type of music that I play with the jewelers, like the old kind of traditional ska stuff, a sort of pioneer of that drumming is a guy called Lloyd Nibbs, and he plays with the Scartalites, or played with the Scartalites. He passed away. And this was, I don't know if it was his exact model, but certainly an Acrolite was the snare drum that was on a lot of those records. So that's why I went for this, to get that sound. Because, as again, for the drummers watching this, you'll know this already, but maybe for the sort of some of the newer guys and girls out there, you'll have more than one snare drum throughout your life. Well, typically, you might not. You might be lucky and find the one that you settle on forever. But the chances are, I'm going to drop this down a bit. The chances are you're going to have several snare drums. So often when you're changing your heads as well, there'll be a load of junky stuff that's built up inside, dust and all sorts of nastiness inside, so you can just chuck it in the bin. So every so often as well, I will sort of take all the drums apart and clean them. I'd done that not so long ago, so hopefully this one isn't too bad. So I normally go for, I use Evans heads. I normally go for all my snare drums. They have a model called the HD Dry. This time I've decided to just go for a G2 coated, which is a 2-ply coated head, two plies of 7mm. Because the HD Dry, as you can imagine, the clue is in the name, I suppose. They're very dry, and I didn't want to dry this drum up anymore. I quite like it to be a little bit more open. It's pretty dry anyway, as far as snare drums go. So that's why I chose to go for this. And also, to be honest, I like to just try different heads on different drums. I'm never one for sort of sticking with one set of heads all the time, because I think drums behave differently. Different drums behave differently, and different heads behave differently on different drums. And I think it's nice to experiment, and especially when I'm in here. Maybe on my touring kit, I'd try and stay pretty consistent for a tour, because you want the sound to stay consistent each night. But certainly when I'm in here, just in the studio, and definitely on a practice kit, I'm going to try and mix things up a little bit. So a Evans G2 coated. Let's get it on there. So I'm just going to leave that finger tight for now and get the batter side, the snare side, sorry, on. Flip that over. For those who don't know, the side you hit of the drum is called the batter head. The side underneath is called the resonant head. So one you hit, you batter it. The other side resonates. It's the resonant head. As far as regularity or like timing for changing my resonant heads, man, I don't know if there's any sort of strict ways of doing this, time ways for doing that. Maybe there is. I'm unaware of them. I would maybe do it twice a year, maybe once or twice a year, just because it's a nice thing to sort of rehead the kit. You could probably leave them longer. I think I have left them longer in the past. But as I say, it's quite nice to have new heads on the drums. So, and eventually the resonant heads will sort of stop doing what you want them to do. They will wear. They will obviously not in the same way as the batter heads because they're not actually getting struck with a stick, but they will eventually sort of sound a bit naff. The head I'm putting on the bottom here is the Snare Side 300. This is a single ply. As I said, the Snare resonant heads are usually really thin, so this is a single ply. And the reason for that is because of the sensitivity of the snare wires, the snares sort of vibrating against the head, like bouncing on and off it. Okay, there's a little bit more to do on this. Need to reattach the wires and obviously then tune it. But as I said, this is not a tuning video. We're not going to go through that in this video. I will say a little bit on that, like the sound I like to go for with this particular snare drum. Actually, they're kind of, I mean, they're not necessarily known for that, but something I found of it, and I spoke to other drummers about, is that these snare drums are really versatile and quite easy to tune. So I normally use my sort of generic snare tuning on this that I like to do with all my as like my baseline snare tuning that I do to all my snare drums, and then depending on the drum or the situation, I'll tweak that. Again, with this one being mostly used for the kind of ska stuff, it is in the higher registers. I do take it quite high, and yeah, but it definitely can go low too. It has a good fat, like gushy, like oosh, big sound with it, available to it as well within its like range. So again, super versatile, this snare drum. So that's the day done. A little vlog for you from this week at the studio, January 2021. We had a few little bits going on. The setup of the recording, there's a clip of the recording. We changed the head on the snare drum before we'd done that. And hopefully you got to see a few pics of the new studio renovation as well. And yeah, it's been cool sharing this time with you. This might be a short one, but it brings you into my world, brings you into the studio a little bit, get to know what it's like down here. Thank you all for being here, and I shall see you all real soon. Peace.